Hollywood has ruined the male body and perceptions on how to get jacked. They're just adding more lies to the cocktail every single year. They're lying about steroid use, and right now, the most popular men in Hollywood look more like professional bodybuilders than they do actors. From Marvel superheroes to action stars, shredded abs and single-digit body fat has become the norm. They're in all the magazines. You have actors claiming they consume 5,000 or 6,000 calories worth of chicken, broccoli, and rice to bulk up, and that they're training up to 6 hours per day to shred down. And it does make you wonder if there's any truth to their claims at all. But why do actors today look more juiced up than the average fake natural on Instagram, lying more to their audience than Greg Doucette trying to sell Turk? And what did Hollywood really do to men's bodies? Surely it's more than just training hard, eating chicken, broccoli, and rice. Well, back in the 1950s and 60s, leading men like Sean Connery, Steve McQueen, and Clint Eastwood weren't exactly jacked by today's standards. They were fit, yes, but nowhere near the level of actors we have today. You didn't see Sean Connery cutting water to show off his abs in James Bond, even though he used to be pretty buff. Movies instead relied on feats to showcase the character's abilities on the big screen, like how Superman just did things to show off his strength, even though he looked like an average guy wearing a crappy muscle suit. The actor didn't have to undergo months of extreme dieting and training 5 hours a day to get into that role. But then the 1970s and 80s rolled around. Alongside guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and Jean-Claude Van Damme, suddenly being an action star also meant being in tremendous shape.
Put that discus down. You have no business out here.
Those men do not throw it far enough.
Arnold, already a 7-time Mr. Olympia, brought bodybuilding aesthetics to the big screen. Stallone dieted down to dangerously low body fat in Rambo 2, and Van Damme just looked kinda cool, I guess. But this was the first shift towards a Hollywood which would absolutely ruin the bodies and expectations for men and women for the next century. Fast forward to the 2000s and 2010s, and the standard has skyrocketed. Chris Hemsworth packed on slabs of muscle to play Thor. Hugh Jackman leaned down to single-digit body fats to play Wolverine. And Zac Efron transformed from a regular-ass dude in High School Musical into a Baywatch beach god. And let's not forget his co-star Dwayne Johnson, who has basically lived in a state of permanent PED use for the last 2 decades. Now, one issue here is that these physiques are being marketed as natural in interviews. Even actors who are obviously on steroids, making Hollywood actors even worse than fake naturals on social media. But it's one thing to just not be open about PED use, and another thing to lie about it and then proclaim you got your physique through other means. For example, Dwayne Johnson, who mind you is still growing into roles past the age of 50, said that steroids don't work, claiming he used them as a teen but stopped because they had no effect on him and he only ended up getting gyno. Which means the 15 pounds of muscle he gained into the role of Black Adam just came from consuming lots of chicken and tequila. That's not just lying, that is taking it one step further and making up a scenario to suit your lie better. Now, I don't think almost anyone believes The Rock is actually natural. He even presented the Mr. Olympia trophy at one point while making Phil Heath look like a toddler, so it's not like he's fooling a lot of people. But the reality is that many of these guys are constantly cycling PEDs to remain relevant in the job market for actors. And it's not necessarily because they want to, but it's more like a job requirement. In fact, Hollywood is worse than the fitness industry because at least influencers occasionally get called out by other influencers and have to face some repercussion. Actors rarely face the same scrutiny and can keep lying to a more general audience who are less knowledgeable on health and fitness. On top of this, most of the training and diet advice that comes out of Hollywood is complete nonsense. We always hear about the chicken, broccoli, and rice diet at 6,000 calories per day, which isn't even physiologically possible because you'd have to consume 4 to 5 kilos of food every single day. But also, many of these famous celebrity trainers do have some of the worst advice on training and diet I've ever seen. Like, yeah, sure, this looks very appetizing, my toilet is definitely gonna appreciate getting laid bricks every morning. But it's not just that these trainers believe in outdated theories about the physiology behind muscle growth like micro tears, or that strength training trains mostly slow twitch muscle fibers, but they also give out some really bad training advice.
If I'm lifting heavy, I rest up to 2 minutes. When I do more lower weight, higher reps, and work more intensely, I try to keep the rest to 1 minute or below 1 minute.
And what are your favorite things to do?
Biceps.
Yeah. In. Good. And squeeze.
Now, many will counter this and say, oh, but Hollywood actors need to be good at more stuff than just looking buff. And yeah, that's absolutely true. They need to move around a lot, and some of them need to be very agile for certain scenes. But then the claims that this is how they train to build their physique falls very flat. Like how Chris Hemsworth has his own app to sell training plans to build a physique like his. Yet, he's not open about his PED use, which is the prime factor at play here, considering a lot of his training isn't even that good for hypertrophy. Now, even though it's probably his agents doing all of this stuff, selling plans stance using your own body as the selling point when you're on PEDs is scummy at best. And the public just eats it up, thinking that if they just follow the same routine, they look like Thor in 12 to 16 weeks. And when they don't, they blame their genetics and worsen their self-image. Now, on top of PED use and bogus diets, these physiques are often further enhanced by dehydration, carb manipulation, and lighting. Actors will peak for one shirtless scene after prepping for months, using these same tricks bodybuilders use on stage or that influencers use online. Some even get CGI touch-ups or post-production airbrushing to exaggerate their definition. And when these actors cycle off, it's usually fairly obvious. Just look at the recent weight loss transformations of The Rock or Dave Bautista. These guys tend to fluctuate dramatically depending on their roles and drug cycles. But a lot of other actors as well will also change their physical appearance to apply for more roles, like Christian Bale. And while I think his physique is definitely achievable naturally for most people, if an actor needs to hop on a cycle to star in a film to make millions of dollars, heck, most would definitely do it, especially if it's done under supervision of a health professional. But the problem isn't just that Hollywood actors lie about their methods, it's that they also shift the goalposts for every man watching, and even for themselves. Once you've seen yourself dehydrated and shredded on the big screen, you might never feel good enough ever again. And for the average moviegoer, these physiques create impossible standards. This is the same body image crisis that we see on social media, except Hollywood broadcasts it on a bigger screen for the entire world. Sure, guys like Sam Sulek or Alex Eubank might affect some people who are already into bodybuilding or fitness, but movies appeal to everyone, and they affect people who also don't know anything about fitness. Take as an example, Mark Wahlberg claimed that he gained 40 pounds of muscle in 7 weeks for the movie Pain and Gain. That's about as believable as testosterone or that V-Shred isn't AI. Sure, he might have been able to gain 40 pounds, but it certainly wasn't all muscle, and he definitely wasn't eating just chicken, broccoli, and rice to get there. Zac Efron admitted that his Baywatch prep nearly broke him, and the media also over-exaggerates these transformations, saying the actors are 4, 5, or 6% body fat when they're really 12 or 13. And their story is always the same: hard work and just clean eating. And these guys definitely work hard, no doubt, but they always turn it into something super unrealistic, like how they train 4 to 6 hours a day, often twice per day, eating food every 2 to 3 hours. Like, my guy, not even the best athletes in any sport across the world train or eat anything like that, not even bodybuilders. This just inflates expectations and spreads misinformation about training and diet to the average population. Even though most people in the fitness industry know that these actors are talking straight BS, beginners might not, and might try to replicate some of these extreme methods. And this also creates a massive wall for people who want to get into shape, because they think that in order to get a body like Chris Evans, they need to have an ED. Hollywood basically creates super high physique standards, then lies about how these actors achieve it. It's not just worse than fake naturals on social media, it's the most dishonest industry of them all. Even if you take the worst type of fake natural in the industry like Mike O'Hearn, at least he has some decent advice for training and nutrition, or at least longevity. But these Hollywood actors and celebrity coaches don't even have that. Now, I'm not gonna say that every buff guy in Hollywood is on steroids, because they're not. There are certainly guys with naturally achievable levels of muscle and leanness with results that many people can replicate. And a good example I like to point to is Henry Cavill, everyone's man crush. Recently, we even had guys like Alan Richardson who spoke openly about what it takes to get into that kind of shape. What I want people to realize though is that progress, like what's often shown in Hollywood, isn't usually realistic in the same time span. These actors and media stars, especially the famous ones, also have teams with chefs, trainers, and a lot of resources to get those results, be it with or without PEDs. Now, you could make an argument that you don't really need a lot of time or resources to build a solid physique, and I definitely agree. If you train for 30 to 60 minutes, 3 to 5 times per week, that is enough to nearly maximize how much muscle you can build if you optimize your training. And from there, it's all about nutrition and recovery. However, most people have jobs that require follow-up. Maybe you're a student with a low budget, or maybe you have children, all of which make getting into shape a tad more difficult than if getting in shape was a part of your job. And after having trained a few hundred clients of my own, it's very clear that those who have more demanding lines of work or have more stuff going on in their lives generally progress slower. Even though that's totally fine and realistic, we need to stop comparing ourselves to these Hollywood movie stars and to other people. Instead, just try becoming a slightly better version of yourself every single day. Just do what you can, and that's plenty. If you can go to the gym 3 times per week, that's sufficient. If your nutrition isn't always 100% on point, so what? Are you competing in a bodybuilding show? Chances are that you're never going to. As long as you make progress, or at least have fun with your training, no matter what the end goal is, that's the most important. Not looking like Chris Hemsworth or any other buff guy, but just being a better version of yourself. And even if Hollywood has messed up a lot of people's expectations, Remember that we can all improve. We can always progress or make our physique a little bit stronger or a little bit better. But we can never replicate the results of somebody else. But what do you guys think? Do you have an issue with how the male body is displayed in Hollywood? Or do you think it's not that big of a deal? Because after all, it is just for entertainment. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. And as always, I'll see you all next time.